In Argentina, the Federation of University Educators called for a new 48-hour national strike. In Palestine, Israeli occupation troops killed over 210 civilians after shelling the Nuseirat camp. In Italy, citizens go to the poll to elect their 76 representatives to the European Parliament. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSur studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Argentine University Educators Union calls for a new 48-hour national strike because of the lack of response by the Javier Milei's government about the false salaries in the education area. The Federation of University Educators explained that the strike will begin this Tuesday and will culminate on Wednesday, June 12th, with a march to the National Congress. It's expected that teachers' unions will demand the senators to vote against the law of basis, a project that will be debated in Congress. Teachers announced that the policies implemented by Javier Milei's administrations have had a negative impact, causing up to 60% loss of purchasing power for educators. The Brazilian government announced that it imported more than 260,000 tons of rice to supply the domestic demand due to the impact of the storms in the Rio Grande do Sul. The government's plan was opposed by Rio Grande do Sul's growers, who supply about 70% of Brazil's production, and by the national agricultural lobbies. The administration emphasized that the purchase would influence traders to bring prices down by selling at lower prices to the population the imported amount. According to the government, the rice is expected to ready to be sold to the population within 45 to 60 days. The government also informed that Mercosur countries are a priority for the purchase of the grain. On Friday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro signed important energy agreements with Turkey. The joint endeavors will be led by the working class that achieved the recovery of the state-owned petrochemical company. The move comes amid the far-right privatization attempts. President Maduro signed these cooperation agreements that consolidate the alliance between Caracas and Ankara to strengthen the development of the natural gas value chain. In addition to agreements for the commercialization on minerals, with emphasis on the respect for nature, another of the agreements signed foresees the construction of a plant for the production of ammonia.
We are signing these documents for the construction of a large petrochemical plant for the production of ammonia. We have fully recovered Pequiven. It is a public company, a socialist company in the hands of the working class. And Pequiven, with the power they have, makes a first-world strategic alliance to build with state-of-the-art technology a new plant.
The government of China strengthens relations with Latin America through meetings with senior officials from Brazil, Venezuela, and Cuba.
During the meeting with Brazilian Vice President Geraldo Alckmin, Chinese President Xi Jinping highlighted the importance of Brazil on the international stage and reaffirmed his friendship with the South American giant.
China and Brazil are good like-minded friends, good partners sharing good moments and bad moments, and good brothers moving forward hand in hand. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral diplomatic relations. Throughout these 50 years, the two sides have carried out exchanges and cooperation and deepened their friendship with the aim of building a community with a shared future.
In this regard, the Vice President of Brazil, Geraldo Alckmin, indicated that President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva has committed himself to making sustainable development a reality in Brazil, following the example of the Chinese government. In this context, China's top political advisor, Wang Huning, received the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil as part of the new historic period between the two nations. The Venezuelan diplomat said that the Latin American country fully supports the global initiatives proposed by the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez met with Political Bureau Standing Committee member Li Xi in an effort to consolidate bilateral inter-party ties.
estadistas bilaterales.
China continues to support Cuba in the search for a socialist path that suits its national conditions and in defense of its sovereignty. The Chinese government seeks to enhance strategic interests with Latin American countries as part of a strategy to confront Western threats to destabilize the global economy.
In the context of relations between China and Latin America, Cuba received 3 photovoltaic parks provided by China to strengthen its energy matrix. The installations provided by the Chinese Agency for International Cooperation and Development represent a significant investment since the 3 parks generate 12 megawatts of energy and are synchronized to the national electric system. The landmark marks the beginning of an investment offensive aimed at adding 1,000 megawatts to Cuba's energy matrix, in addition to reducing fuel consumption in electric generation. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSur. Patients could save their lives if they manage to leave the enclave to be treated abroad. Health authorities detailed that more than 11,000 wounded, 10,000 patients with cancer, and another 2,000 with several pathologies are unable to access the necessary care because of the incursion of the Israeli occupation army into the city of Rafah last May. In other news, the 27th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which began on Wednesday, June 5th, concluded in Russia. From St. Petersburg, our colleague Oleg Jasinski has all the details.
Saludos desde San Petersburgo, queridos amigos.
Greetings from St. Petersburg, dear friends. Here we have just concluded the 27th International Economic Forum, which was held from June 5th to 8th. Its main mission was defined as the search for economic measures to maintain the global balance of power and build a multipolar international system. The forum was attended by representatives from 136 countries and high-level politicians from more than 45 countries. Among them were the presidents of Bolivia, Zimbabwe, Serbia, the Prime Minister of the Central American Republic, the Foreign Minister of Hungary, and several others. The number of participants of only the first day of this forum has exceeded the number of attendees of the 4 days of this forum in 2019. That is, more than 19,000 people attended. It has already become evident that the level of business activity at the forum has far exceeded indicators of all previous years despite the sanctions. Let's remember that more than 20,000 Western economic and technological sanctions were applied against Russia. It is a total record. The program also included about 200 thematic debates and a number of bilateral and multilateral business dialogues. And as one of the results of the event, more than 1,000 commercial agreements are expected to be signed. I believe that in the next few hours we will have the official data on the results. But the most important thing is that this event was a great meeting between Russia and the Global South, and not only economically, but also culturally and politically. Countries and their peoples who will continue to work for a more humane and just future together.
Desde San Petersburgo, para TeleSur, Oleg Jasinski.
We now have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen. Welcome back. In Italy, citizens participate in elections to choose their 76 representatives out of the 720 that make up the European Parliament. The ballot boxes in Italy for the European parliamentary elections open their first day this Saturday, June 8th. The second day is scheduled to take place on Sunday, after which the results will be announced. Experts estimate that these elections will be marked by abstentionism and the growth of the influence of the extreme right-wing parties in the European Parliament. Under the part, the citizens of the Czech Republic finished the voting day after 2 consecutive days to decide the members of the European Parliament. 674 candidates from 30 political formations were presented to the consultation. Also, Ireland and the Netherlands finished the parliamentary elections, and the results of the elections are expected to be announced on Sunday, June 9th, in an ambience marked by low voter turnout. Elections to the European Parliament are taking place as we speak, and they will run through the weekend. Our correspondent Andres Flores has more.
In the European elections, citizens of the countries that make up the European Union choose their representatives to the European Parliament. It is the largest multinational election in the world, enrolling some 373 million voters. This time, these elections are taking place amid conflicts that directly or indirectly involve Europe.
These elections are taking place in an international context marked by the start of the war in Ukraine, an ongoing genocide in Palestine by the State of Israel.
According to many analysts, the far right is expected to gain strength in these European elections.
According to the polls, there will be a very significant increase of votes for different extreme right and populist right parties. In general, the extreme right is expected to double its number of seats. Same goes for the Eurosceptic right. Therefore, the two combined could make up to 25% of the European Parliament. Meanwhile, extreme centrist parties are expected to lose.
For Sergi Roca, chief international news editor at Catalunya Radio, the new European Parliament will have to deal with shifting world powers.
Internationally speaking, the European Parliament and the European Commission coming out of these elections will have to negotiate with the usual players. But in the case of the United States, for instance, it may again be Joe Biden or it may be Trump, which would make a difference. But also there is China and Latin America. The Mercosur agenda has been stuck for many years, so it would be very interesting to see how that evolves.
Historian Irene González Ello highlights the main challenges that next European Parliament will have to face.
During the next 5 years, the European Union will have to face issues such as the climate crisis, having two wars very close to our borders, one in our continent. Also the challenge of achieving gender equality, continuing to fight for human rights that meet European standards.
But there is concern about low turnout predictions.
I hope such predictions remain just that, and people turn out massively to vote, especially young people. I think many people are very much aware of these being important elections, and what is at stake, of the challenges for the next 5 years, and I think this can mobilize young people.
The European Parliament is the only multinational parliamentary assembly in the world elected by direct vote, and this Sunday it will be restructured.
TeleSur, Barcelona. The government of Slovakia assured that it will not be led by Western countries into a military adventure promoting war against Russia. This was stated by the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, referring to the consent given by the Western countries to Ukraine to allow it to use Western weapons to attack targets on Russian territory. Fico denounced that this is only proof that the great Western democracies do not want peace, but rather an escalation of tension with Russia and a continuation of a senseless war. The Russian authorities warned that this policy will inevitably have its consequences. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, more than 50 people lost their lives as a result of attacks during the last 3 days, attributed to rebel links to the Daesh group. According to authorities, about 13 people were killed on Thursday in an attack perpetrated by the Allied Democratic Forces in North Kivu province. 39 people were also killed in armed attacks on Tuesday in 3 other villages in that province. According to local sources, this figure could increase as the search for the missing people continues. Meanwhile, the population is fleeing to supposedly safe areas amid these attacks. The FDA has had a 30-year presence in eastern DRC, where it has killed thousands of civilians. In Ivory Coast, the development of renewable energy sources is one of the main tasks of the Ministry of Energy. In this sense, the African nation is promoting the use of solar power plants to contribute to the development of the energy mix. Let's find out about the first solar plant connected to the national grid.
Inaugurated in June 2023, Ivory Coast's first solar power plant is located in the city of Boundiali, in the north of the country, and is the first to be connected to the national grid as part of the West African country's commitment to clean energy without fossil fuels, with the aim of improving electricity supply to more than 430,000 households, according to the Ministry of Energy.
On the other hand, in Boundiali, the northern part of the country, irradiance is very high. Irradiance is the quantity of light that the sky sends, that the forgiving sun sends to the earth. So we have a lot more of this quantity of light in the northern part of the country. So the most appropriate place to build solar photovoltaic power plants is really in the northern part of the country.
Unlike the more humid and cloudy south, the northern climate is warm and dry for much of the year, which makes it very suitable for solar energy.
If we have several solar photovoltaic power stations, what will that do? Relieve the transit of energy that passes through these lines from the south to the north of the country. So that's the importance of having. And it contributes to the energy mix. We're going to use water, gas, but also the sun. We're going to make sure that wherever we invest, we have the maximum amount of electricity.
In this region of some 92,000 inhabitants, some 350 people have been hired since the plant's construction began. Most were hired on a short-term basis to install solar panels or perform maintenance tasks.
I like working here at the plant because I get paid well. I can feed my family and look after people at home. Well, I'd prefer the job to last a bit longer, but if it does, I'll really enjoy it.
Ivory Coast already exports about 10% of its electricity to neighboring countries and aims to generate almost half of its power from renewable sources by 2030 in a continent that, although it has doubled its capacity to produce clean energy, still account for only 2% of global capacity.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.